Hi guys, welcome to Unit 3, Lesson 6, Supplementary Angles. So supplementary angles, the way we're going to treat them is very similar to complementary angles. So remember, we learned about complementary angles, which are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. Well, now these ones, supplementary angles, are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. So very similar concept, just twice as much as complementary, okay? So, supplementary angles, two angles whose measurements add up to 180 degrees. Also, 180 degrees is a straight line or a half circle. You could think of it either way, right? But so like, let's say, here's a straight line, and I could make two angles that when smushed together, right? So just like complementary, or well, I mean adjacent angles, right? At least in this setup, I have them as adjacent, but they create this straight line when they are smushed together like that. Okay, so and when we think half circle, right? Well, here's the measurement of this angle. Here's the measurement of this angle, and if you notice, had I drawn it perfectly, it would have been a half circle. Okay, so that's what that refers to. So let's just get straight into some examples. The first one I have is number 1 on your practice, which is on page 11 in your lesson. A geometric figure has angles with the following measurements: 89 degrees, 135 degrees, 112 degrees, 68 degrees. Which two angle measures correspond to a supplementary pair? Supplementary pair. Okay, so that's a really fancy way of saying which two are supplementary. So that's our job. We need to figure out which ones are going to add up to 180. So right off the bat, the first thing I notice, well, this is almost 90 degrees, which would mean that its partner would have to be very close to 90 degrees as well in order to equal 180. There's nothing that's even close to 90, so that one won't work. The other thing to think about is, like, in order for this to equal 180, the other number would have to end in a 1 in order to match up with that 9, and none of these end in a 1, so we can cross that one out. 135, maybe could partner with 68, but if we add those together, well, 100, even just 130 plus 60 gives us 190, so that's too high. And these are obviously going to be even higher together. But if we look at these, 112 plus 68, if we add those together, well, 2 plus 8 is 10, 60 plus another 10 is 70, plus another 10 is 80, plus 100, 180, right? Or you could use a calculator, however you want to figure that out. In the problem, it does ask you to list them, the smaller angle, then the larger angle. So you would put, I think it's just the number that you have to put. You'd put 68 degrees and 112 degrees. And that's it. Okay, so just figuring out which ones add up to 180 degrees. All right, this next one is number 5 on your practice. It says, what is the value of x if y equals 71 degrees? So again, I want you to notice, so here's x, that's what we're looking for. Y is 71 degrees, okay? But notice they're supplementary because when they're smushed together like they are in this picture, they make that straight line, which means they're supplementary, which also means they add up to 180. So to find x, we could say x plus y equals 180. Well, we know that we know that y is equal to 71. Okay, to solve, you can subtract 71 from both sides. So x is, you're left with 109 degrees. So that would be your final answer. X is 109 degrees. Okay? All right, and number 3, last one for today. This is number 1 from your quick check. Determine whether the two angles can be supplementary if the measure of angle A is 37 degrees and the measure of angle B is 143 degrees. What is the reasoning? So there's a couple things to think about. In the picture, these two lines look parallel. So if you look at your quick check on the computer, these two lines look parallel, which would mean that B is congruent to this angle here, which is supplementary to A. But being that we don't know for sure that these two lines are parallel, we can't use that as reasoning, okay? What we can do is we can add them together. We can say, okay, well, let's see here. If they're supplementary, they have to add up to 180 degrees. So I could take 143 and add it to 37. Well, let's see, 3 plus 7 is 10. Drop my 0. There's my 8 and 1. So they do add up to 180 degrees. So let's see. Yes, they are supplementary because they add up to 180 degrees. That's the reasoning. Okay? So I hope that helps. I think it's number 2 on the quick check. It's very similar, but again, your fallback should always be to add them together to confirm if they are supplementary. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you with the other one that's kind of similar to this. I forget if it's number 2 or 3. But anyway, hang in there and reach out if you need extra support, okay?